Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Casual Revolt. I'm here with my dad. Here he is. Once again, we're both teachers. Today, we're going to be reacting to a video that was done by Robert Reich. He is an economist. I believe he was the Secretary of Labor underneath President Clinton. Very smart guy, very talented economist, etc. And he did a video a while back called "Is Donald Trump a Fascist?" And my dad and I are very well acquainted with the term. We're both teachers, both social studies teachers. And my grandfather actually fought in Europe against the Nazis. And we know quite a bit about fascism. So we are looking to just see what he has to say about it and add some commentary. Is there anything you'd like to add, Dad?
No.
No? Okay.
Oh,
hmm
yes, I do want to add something.
hmm
Um, Guten Tag.
Yeah, guten Tag. Let us begin. There is a cat in the room. Our dear Mac is here. So if you hear some meowing in the background, you know why. We do have a guest. Okay. So let's begin. Again, this is Robert Reich talking about, is Donald Trump a fascist? And so let's begin.
F word. No, no, not that F word. I'm talking about fascism. Is Donald Trump really a fascist, as some would say? Or is the word authoritarian sufficient? The term fascism is often used loosely.
Oh, this is interesting. So if you see, what were you going to say, Dad, about this image right here?
Uh,
Yes.
that image in the middle
Right
is
here. Yeah. In the
is
middle.
a Roman symbol. It's called a fascus, and in classical Latin, fascus, and it's a bundle of rods around a an axe, a weapon, and it symbolizes the power and authority of Rome. Whenever the Roman army or Roman legion would capture a town, they would parade through the town, and in front of it would be one of the soldiers carrying this thing. And it was to tell the people, you're now under Roman rule, you are now Roman, and we have the authority to punish you or to protect you, but that's our power.
And the object itself sort of symbolizes that. You can see that those rods are wrapped up in like, I guess, a piece of cloth or a rope or something, symbolizing that the state or the government, Rome, the government, or in the case of fascists, the state, the government, holds everyone together, holds together the nation, and also fights for it and does violence for the people, which is the axe.
And that's where the word fascism comes from. And the
Right.
reason is because Benito Mussolini, the guy on the upper right,
Mhm.
um, he actually, before there was a Hitler that came along, he actually um, started a political party in Italy called the Fascist Party, and he used a lot of Roman symbols uh, to show that the authority he wanted to see the leader have. And so that's one of the symbols he used, and thus fascist party.
And by the way, the salute that everyone thinks of when they think of fascism is called the Roman salute because the Romans used to do it. Okay, yeah, Dad, don't do it, Dad, don't do it. Okay.
That's the Roman salute. I have
No,
to
no,
hit
no,
my
no.
chest.
Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay, we all know. We
Masculine man hitting
all
my chest and going,
yeah,
Hail Rome.
we all know you're not a fascist. Okay. So all right. So and then on some other images here, we have the swastika in the upper right-hand corner. I'm sure everyone recognizes that symbol. And this is called the Black Sun. The Sonnen, I think it's called Sonnenrod or something.
What
It's
is?
this symbol in the upper left corner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a very classic sort of fascist racial supremacy symbol. Um, and the guy down here is Francisco Franco in the lower right, and the guy down here in the left is Hitler. Okay,
Now
so
hang on.
uh-huh.
The guy in the lower right. Whenever I talked, I had to say his full name because
Generalissimo
Generalissimo Francisco
Franco.
Franco,
Yeah, there we
because
go.
I like making fun of him.
Yeah, well,
And
I
did
don't
you
blame
talk
you.
about the swastika?
Yeah, I just mentioned that's the Nazi swastika.
Now,
That
let me say something. Fascists will use symbols that have nothing to do with fascism and turn them into fascist symbols, such as the fascist. The swastika actually is an ancient symbol before fascist ever came along. In Christianity, it was considered the broken cross, and you can find it in churches, in tile work and in artwork. It's a symbol of the triumph of Christ over death and evil. So you can imagine seeing that. It
And
also is
mhm,
used by Native Americans in Southwest the United States. It's also used in Tibet and those places
which
by
is where the
Buddhists.
Nazis got it. They sort of
Yep.
stole it from the Tibet area. They viewed themselves as, yeah, it's complicated, but they, yeah.
Well, also Hitler at one point was in a school run by monks, and where he went was also they had tile work of the swastika too.
Yeah, no, you're right. Monks as in like Christian monks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. It's an interesting symbol. It has different meanings, different places, but yeah, they, of course, the Nazis took it and destroyed it basically. So let's continue with the video.
But you can generally identify fascists by their hate of the other, vengeful nationalism, and repression of dissent. To fight these ideas, we need to be aware of what they are and how they fit together. Let's examine the 5 elements that define fascism.
I'm just going to pause this here. So I'm not sure what he's going to be saying in this video, but it is still debated amongst academics really how to define fascism. There's a reason why it's kind of hard to pin down the term because different academics have identified different things that are sort of part of fascism. So it's just interesting. I recommend everyone read more about it because, again, different academics have different perspectives. You have Roger Griffin, you have Umberto Eco, you have Paxton. I mean, there's a bunch of different views on this. So we have to see which ones he's looking at, but there are different views on it.
Also, too, whoever the fascist leader at the time was might exhibit it in a different way. There are some basic uh, commonality that runs through them all. But for instance, Generalissimo Francisco Franco's his sense of fascism shares some identity with Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, but there is also some differences. So what you look for is the commonality.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like a lot of these academics, they try to find what is common amongst these movements and try to sort of narrow it down. But yeah, every fascist movement, it's a good point, Dad. There are different in different ways. They manifest differently.
Yeah,
Um,
what you can stand back, when you stand back, you can recognize what fascism is. But when you
yes.
start looking at the individual points, it's kind of like even in the United States, if you're a Democrat, there's different types of Democrats. If you're a Republican, there are different types of Republicans. And democracies in the world, there's different types of democracies. From afar, you can see what's common, but when you start analyzing the nitty-gritty, you start seeing some commonality and some differences, but it doesn't make them any less uh, democratic or any less a Republican. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. All right, let's continue. So, 5 elements, according to Robert Reich, that define fascism.
And what makes it distinct from and more dangerous than authoritarianism.
Okay, I will say one thing. Dad, would you say that authoritarianism is different from fascism, or is it that fascism is typically authoritarian?
Typically authoritarian. I think authoritarian is a broader term.
It is, but
And
fascism is oftentimes is, or if not always, is authoritarian. But
yes,
not every authoritarian regime is fascist.
right, exactly. But
Yeah,
that's one of the hallmarks.
yes, and again, these things are debated, but continue.
First, the rejection of democracy in
Mhm.
favor of a strongman.
Yep,
Authoritarians
Donald Trump. Anyway, yeah,
believe strong leaders are needed to maintain stability, so they empower strongmen, dictators, or absolute monarchs to maintain social
Let's
order
stop.
through.
hmm
I just want to mention, because he doesn't say who these are, it looks like.
hmm
But the guy on the lower right was from,
Uganda.
yeah, Uganda. His name was Idi Amin. The guy with his finger in the air, that's Saddam Hussein
Mhm.
from Iraq. And then the guy on the right is, and I always forget his name.
I can't remember his name either, but he's the king of Saudi Arabia.
Uh,
I can't remember
yeah,
his
I don't
name. Yeah.
remember.
Um, yes, a lot of these folks, yeah, these are all authoritarians, very brutal, yeah,
Some more than others.
yeah, some more than others.
the use of force. But fascists view strong leaders as the means of discovering what society needs. They regard the leader as the embodiment of society.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, in like a lot of fascist regimes, the leader sort of takes on is becomes sort of an avatar for the rest of the country. They view themselves as sort of representing all the people and being like the embodiment of the will of the entire population.
Matter of fact, under Mussolini, he always referred to himself as the new Caesar. And if you know your Roman history, um, Caesar is a term that was applied to Julius Caesar at first, but became a term applied to future emperors, and that they led the country. Oops, sorry,
It's okay.
they led the country, and thus I am Caesar,
Hmm.
and that's where sometimes people would go Caesar and salute that way in some cases. But in Germany under Hitler, two different chants that you will hear sometimes in German. One is ein Volk, ein Reich und ein,
Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer,
yes, thank you.
which basically means one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. And it means one people, one nation, and one leader.
Hmm.
So, and then afterwards they would go, Sieg Heil or Heil Hitler. Heil means hail, all hail to Hitler, hail Hitler, hail Hitler. So that is basically was started to make him look like the salvation.
Hmm.
There's a second one that they would do, and it would be Deutschland ist Hitler und Hitler ist Deutschland, which, if you know, if you think though there's a little bit of German, you can know what that stands for. It is uh, Hitler is Deutschland, Hitler is Germany, und Deutschland ist Hitler. Germany is Hitler, and then they would go Sieg Heil, Hail Hitler.
Hmm.
So he is Germany.
Hmm.
He is the voice of the people. So, which then leads to, if you speak out against Hitler, that means you're speaking out against Germany.
Yeah.
And when you speak out against Germany, you're speaking uh, anti-patriotic
Mhm.
things about Germany
And
because
you're a
you
traitor.
criticize Hitler, you're criticizing Germany. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So and that to me, I don't know what he's going to say next, but to me, that sounds like today. You criticize Trump, he comes after you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll get even with you, boy. I'm going to sue you for all you have because of what you said about me.
Hmm. And
That's not
not
American.
yeah, not to mention all the Trump has said on multiple occasions how like I am your what? I am your salvation, I am your retribution. Like he's using very fascist language about how he is embodying the will of the American people.
And I've got
Um,
the answers.
yeah. Oh, and that's another good point. Actually, most fascist leaders they claim that they're the only person that can save a country or a nation from whatever they feel is upsetting it. Okay.
And for you Christians, I am the way, the truth, and the light.
Yeah.
Call me your President Trump.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Let's continue.
The voice of the people.
I am your voice.
There we go.
That's it
I
there.
alone can fix it.
That's it
Yeah,
there.
there we go.
Yep.
Second, stoking rage against cultural elites.
Okay, let's stop.
Authoritarian
This image
movement.
right here that he just showed, the burning of books, that's not just symbolic, but also a real thing. And what I want to mention, there came a point to where the Nazis under Hitler really, really, really wanted to clean up the way people thought from in their mind. And so they actually had burning book celebrations where they actually burned books, academic books that they didn't like because it didn't fit their view of what Germany should be like. And they even went into museums grabbing old manuscripts, dating back hundreds of years. And if they didn't think it portrayed their Germany, they burned them and had celebrations burning the books.
They also burned any books having to do with any topic that they thought was undermining the strength of Germany. So, like anything about, like anything about socialism, for example, or anything about
Jews.
Jews, anything positive, I should say, about Jews, anything about like the LGBTQ community. They viewed it as destructive to the nation. And one thing about fascists is that they don't really care what's true or real. Uh, they just care about what they their perspective on the world. So if there's any knowledge out there or anything that goes against their worldview, they will ignore it or dismiss it, even if it's factually true, because it's all about sort of their emotions, not about reality or rationality. Um, all right.
cannot succeed without at least some buy-in from establishment elites.
Mhm.
While fascist movements often seek to co-opt the establishment, they largely depend on fueling resentment and anger against presumed cultural elites for supposedly displacing regular people. Fascists rile up their followers to seek revenge on the elites.
The out of
Oh, okay. I'm gonna keep
touch
going. That's
media
fine.
elites,
Mhm.
the political elites, but the elites from the elites who led us from one financial and foreign policy disaster to another.
They create mass.
So yeah, that's very true about fascists. Yeah, I know. I see you laughing there. I know. Uh, yeah, it's kind of depressing. But yeah, they will rile up hatred against what they call elites. For example, Nazi Germany, they claimed there was like a Jewish elite and things like that. Though oftentimes elites will end up some elites will end up siding with the fascists. It's like, for example, when it came to Hitler, the Conservative Party ended up kind of citing him and appointing him into office because they thought they could control him. He also got some support from industrialists and such. But almost always, they don't end up actually going after the elites. They tend to kind of be just another elite. I mean, a more vicious elite. Like, for example, Donald Trump going after the elites, claim he's going to drain the swamp, but he is the swamp.
He also, I mean, fascism also tries to work with industry,
Hmm.
which is really unique,
Hmm.
and and that's one way they court the corporate elites.
Hmm.
Uh, for instance, Porsche. Now you're probably going, it's Porsche. Well, when I was in Germany, every German said Porsche. But anyway, uh, he actually helped the Porsche Corporation by helping fund the growth of their auto industry, and even creating a new car um, that was supposed to be for the people, but that also brought in more funding for the elite, for the Porsche, and that was the Volkswagen, or as they would say in Germany, Volkswagen. Um,
Yeah, whenever a Volkswagen like cuts me off on the road, I always think to myself, "Oh, those Nazis over there." It's not the same thing, by the way, folks. But as a
yeah,
historian, I'm always like, "Oh yeah, the Volkswagen, the people." Of course,
same
the
name,
Nazi
just
car. Okay,
different
no,
beast. Now,
yeah,
also one other thing too, for instance, also too, because we're talking a lot about Hitler, is Benito Mussolini. One of the things he did, and remember, Benito Mussolini made fascism a term and a belief system before Hitler ever came to power.
yep.
Matter of fact, Hitler admired Mussolini and copied him. Okay, but anyway,
And they
there's
were besties. They were good friends,
yeah,
apparently.
eventually. I
Yeah,
mean, Hitler just worshipped the ground he walked on.
yeah.
But anyway, when one of the things that Mussolini did, or a couple of things he did, that helped actually uh, get the corporate leaders on his side. So one thing, it just sounds ridiculous, but one of the things in Italy, the trains never ran on time. Okay, now you may go, oh, so what? Well, there wasn't really passenger air travel back then. So if you need to get from point A to point B for a business meeting, and it was a bit of a distance, or to try to sell somebody on the items that you made, you would take a train,
Hmm.
and that those meetings were important for business, for trade, and that was getting in the way. So Mussolini stirred things up um, in the train industry and made them run on time, which made business more efficient. Secondly, there was also an auto company that wanted to build a new factory, and the ideal place to build it was next to this water source. And problem is, in that near that area was an old Italian town that dated back hundreds of years. The people didn't want to give up their town. I mean, that history went back practically to the days of the Roman Empire. But Mussolini basically said to the automaker, yeah, you can build there. And they went in and leveled that town, displaced the people,
Hmm.
and that automaker was just so happy. So once again, that's one of the ways you court the the business elite.
Hmm. That's for sure.
Political parties and demand participation. They encourage violence.
Yeah, okay, I gotta pause it there. Fascism is all about violence, okay? I think I mentioned in one of our last reaction videos, Mussolini was famously asked by a reporter, what is your party's political platform? And his response was, our platform is the fist. What does that mean, right? It just the idea is mass violence. A lot of Nazi parties started off as roving bands of men, often veterans of World War One, essentially getting into pitched street battles with other groups of men, other from other political parties. Violent. It's all about violence because to fascists, violence is rejuvenating. It allows for the destruction of the people they view as weak. Okay, they're all about violence and encouraging violence, and the fascist leaders don't always directly call for violence, but they will imply they want violence, and then the people below them will do the violence.
The mafia.
Yeah, like a mafia. Okay, so violence is a very big part of fascism.
And also too, as Sam was saying, in the post World War One, Germany we know was defeated. They didn't have a penny to their name, and a lot of when the soldiers came home, there were no jobs for them. Things were not good, and that's for another discussion. And so Germany then was told they can no longer have a monarchy. They've got to have a democratic republic, which Germany never had. So this is new to them.
Well, they didn't have a very
Yeah,
yeah, they kind of had one, but it was not.
the Reichstag.
Yeah, yeah, but I know what you mean. You're
Yeah,
right.
but
Yeah.
anyway, so what happened, you got all these political parties popping up that had different views of how to turn Germany around. And they all had their own. Do you remember what they were called?
Freikorps.
Freikorps. That's right. They had their own little private little armies that would protect the people who were the leaders. And they would give speeches, hand out flyers and stuff. And they all had different symbols. For instance, there were the steel helmet
Yeah, the steel helmets.
Freikorps is one example. Well, the Nazi Party, once again, short story, long story short, they had their own Freikorps called the SA. Um, SA,
Mhm.
tell them what it means. Do you remember?
Sturmabteilung, which
Yes.
basically means stormtroopers.
Yeah, that's basically what it means.
Yeah.
And and so they also protect their leaders. They also passed out flyers. Um, and also to all these political parties, their their own little armies had their own uniforms, like the steel helmet one. They had the old World War One steel helmets. Those veterans came home with their gear. The Nazi Party had wanting to copy Mussolini in Italy. Mussolini's party, the people who belonged to it were called the Black Shirts.
Who would have thought they wore black shirts?
Yes, and in Germany, the SA were called brown shirts because of their uniform,
Which were brown.
and so you could identify them on the street.
Mm.
The thing with the SA was that they were the most violent of them. If you even looked at them the wrong way, they'd beat you up.
Mhm,
And if you informed the authorities, they'd beat you up and kill you.
mhm.
And that they spread fear.
And by the way, in the United States today, so that's one thing that is, I would say, a bit you can push back at if you'd like, is a bit different from modern day America when we're talking about fascist America. There are militia groups in the United States. There are people groups like the Proud Boys, which are very close to being very much like some of those fascist groups of Freikorps and stuff. But we don't see quite the level of that kind of open
Right.
street violence between groups like that as we did then. Now, that doesn't mean we're not living in a fascist moment, but that is one thing that is not sort of that isn't a one-to-one comparison between now and then.
And in our country too, it's a little comparison. Is that, for instance, since he mentioned the Proud Boys, it's like, they don't actually go and physically beat up people and kill them, but they threaten it. And for instance, think of
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville.
Hmm.
They went threatening and they held a candlelight march, which is very, very fascist. And they carried weapons with them. It's sending a certain message,
Yeah.
but which is what uh, fascists would do.
Yep.
Or you have the neo Nazis in our country.
Hmm.
That will do the same thing. They'll show up at political rallies, or let's say there's a protest happening somewhere, and they'll show up to counter protest and use very threatening language, and they'll
Hmm.
let you know we're here. That's the SA would do that, except then they'd also cross that line then to be even more violent,
By the way, there's a word for that. It's called terrorism, when you're trying to frighten people and to make them
give them
more.
terror. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Knock the
Oh
crap
my
out of him.
God. Okay.
Okay,
That's
those
crazy.
statements there. That
Hmm.
is pure fascist.
Yeah.
Um,
There's actually a word for that. It's called stochastic terrorism. It's basically where you use your platform to sort of hint or push other people that are listening to you to do violence on your behalf. You may not actually be doing the violence. You may not even be directly saying, go hurt that person, but you will use language that implies that that's what should happen. Okay. And knowing that there will be some people who will do it for you. Though I think in this case, he actually is literally directly saying, knock the crap out of them.
and that happened under other fascists also. And once again, everybody knows Hitler, so I'm going to use the Nazis. That's what they would do. You disagreed with them, they would do what he said, knock the crap out of them, and the other things he said.
Mhm.
Um, in the 1930s in the United States, there was an American Nazi party, and led by a man. Oh, what was his name?
Which one are you talking about? The German American Bund?
Yes.
Oh gosh, what was his name? I'll think of it.
You can go online and actually see a
Yeah.
rally that they held, a big rally in New York City in the 30s.
Hmm.
But there was a man in the audience, and this is one of the things you'll see, who,
We can react to that sometime. That's actually an interesting video.
yes,
Go ahead. Yeah.
yes, and anyway, a man in the audience who starts yelling anti-Nazi things at this American Nazi party rally, and he even tries to climb up onto the stage and yell. Well, uh, the um, the police were there because they knew there were going to be problems, but there were also members of the American Nazi Party that were there to protect this guy and the head of the party. And they started to beat on him, and the guy just stood by the leader at the
Hmm.
podium, looking and watching, and this was okay to him.
And the audience was loving it. They
Oh,
were cheering for
oh,
this guy being beaten up.
here
You
in
see, you
America.
see some, yeah, sounds familiar, right? Some of the things we've seen at some of the Trump rallies.
And by the way, this guy was right.
Yeah,
So just want to let you know.
yeah.
Would you? And we fight. We fight like hell.
Third, nationalism based on superior race and historic bloodlines. Authoritarians see nationalism as a means of asserting the power of the state. For fascists, the state embodies what is considered a superior group based on race, religion, and historic bloodlines. To fascists, the state is a means of asserting that superiority.
Folks, if you're not aware, there's something called Christian nationalism, which my dad here, who's a Catholic, right, a Christian, will tell you, will probably very angrily tell you, is not real Christianity, or at least is very distorting of Christianity. And there's a lot. Yeah, there we go. You see it. Okay, the members of the Trump administration are lots of them are very obvious Christian nationalists who believe that the government should be run by Christians, especially white Christians. That that kind of makes you more superior, etc. So there's a racial element there. There's a religious element there. Um, Anything you want to add to that, Dan?
Oh, yes. Mussolini basically wanted to create a new Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted this Roman Empire being run by the new Romans. In other words, everybody in Italy, but they had to be native Italians. Okay. He didn't want foreigners in there being a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
He advocated getting rid of the foreigners, or what he called foreigners, put it that way. And there were people who did see the handwriting on the wall and left. Italy for Italians. Who cares that a lot of the Italians can sometimes trace their ancestry back to other places?
Like North Africa.
Yeah. Well, in Sicily,
Yeah.
and I've heard this, and my grandfather from Sicily used to say this, is that he said, "Don't call me Italian, call me Sicilian." A lot of Sicilians don't view themselves as Italian. Um, so even there, there's an issue. And to be honest, Mussolini did not like Sicilians.
Yeah.
Look it up, you'll find it.
Right.
And in Germany, obviously, let's purge the races here. So nothing but heroic Germans. Let's get rid of the
Yeah.
gypsies, the Jews. I mean, if you're Jewish, your origins aren't here.
Yeah, they would actually do. They would demand like high level people in the government would have to have their family lineage looked at to make sure there was no quote unquote Jewish blood in their
Yep.
lineage. They were very, yeah, it's all a bunch of nonsense, folks. But that's very true. Now,
Well,
this does, sorry, real fast, Dad. This does appear differently in different places. So race is typically one of the things that is talked about in these cases. But you can imagine scenarios where a fascist regime wouldn't base that divide on race. You could base it on other things too. But
religion.
his Yeah, religion, for example. Okay. But yeah, yeah. So yes. So for example, I remember I saw someone who said, well, there are some people of color, for example, in the Trump administration. Okay, fine. That's beside the point, really. There's other ways of dividing people based off superior and inferior. Okay. Um,
But also, too, they can, I'm going to use an old word here, but they also, in some cases, are put there as tokens
mhm.
to show the people, look, I'm not against everybody that's not, in this case, German,
Right.
which is a bunch of, you know, horse manure.
Hmm.
Also, too, what one of the things I wanted to say too was in Spain under Generalissimo Francisco Franco, um, he wanted everybody to be Spanish slash Catholic.
Hmm.
Now, I know some people will say, but he persecuted the Catholics, like on one of those things that we watch.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sorry, the other side persecuted the Catholics and he protected them. No, he wanted Catholics there, and there are a lot of Catholics that were against him. I want
Hmm.
to point that out.
And he killed a lot of them.
Yeah,
I
and a
mean,
lot of them
yeah,
were priests and nuns that got slaughtered.
yeah.
But anyway, and that's what he wanted.
Hmm.
And there are other fascist leaders, which we're not going to get into.
There's
You
yeah,
probably never heard of
there's another
before.
group. There was a group in Romania called the Iron Guard, and they were
Oh yeah.
explicitly a vicious far right Catholic organization. So, religion can also be a major part of this. Yeah.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you.
Fascists worry about disloyalty and
Okay, you got to
Okay.
stop there.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
First of all, I'm sorry. I know you're about to talk, Dad, but first of all, no one is sending anyone. Okay, it's not like the government of Mexico is like, oh, let's send people over there.
Here's
Okay.
your one-way ticket to America.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not how that works. It's also, I'm not sure what metric he's using to determine who is best. We can guess based, okay, but like, anyway, go ahead, Dad.
Our country.
Here we go.
When the colonists first came over. Now I'm going to kind of set aside the what they did to the native peoples here, but let's look at them. In the New England states, see here, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, and early on, Plymouth colony, which became a part of the Massachusetts Bay, uh, they were all settled by outcasts from England, Puritans who were outcast, who were looked at as you're not really very good people. So we are going to take away your rights and cause problems for you. So eventually they came over here. So yeah, those weren't the best people that came over here. The
Yeah.
founding people weren't the best. You have the Quakers who
Hmm.
went to Pennsylvania, settled what will become Philadelphia, city of brotherly love.
Hmm.
They were outcasts,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to get into that. Georgia,
I was about to say,
Georgia,
don't forget Georgia.
okay, Georgia peaches, Georgia pecans, Georgia criminals,
Yes, literally.
literally criminals
Yeah.
in under British law back then.
Hmm.
If you were, their prisons were getting full because they were jailing everybody that were committing crimes, and that included people who were poor. If you were poor and you owed money but you couldn't afford it, they'd throw you into prison. Talk about violent criminals.
Yeah.
And and the prisons were getting full, so they decided to go ahead and release a lot of these criminals, and they actually sent them over to what we now call Georgia.
Yeah.
Best of the best in Georgia.
Yep.
Trump would have kicked them out, and I could mention a few other places,
Hmm.
but they always talk about these people always talk about the founding fathers patriotism. They're talking about people who are outcasts that today
Hmm.
wouldn't make it in here,
Yep.
and it
Yeah.
okay,
It's
I'm done.
yeah. We all can tell when they're talking about like not sending their best. By the way, as a teacher, my dad might agree with me. I found that a lot of recent immigrants were some of the hardest working people I ever taught, some of the most devoted people to their education. Um, Also, there are many statistics that show that recent immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than native born Americans. Okay. That makes sense. You
Yep.
don't want to attract the state's attention on you, et cetera. Okay. So I don't know what he's referring to when he said they're not sending their best. We
They're,
can guess.
they okay. Let's put it this way. I'm going to put it into this term. What's happening is that now I'm going to use the word sent. Send us
You're tired, you're hungry, you're
hungry,
poor,
or your
you're huddled
huddled
masses
masses yearning
yearning
to
to be
be free.
free.
The Statue of Liberty is beckoning the very people that
Mhm.
Trump and his MAGA group think are horrible people.
Yeah, and that actually, by the way, that's what it says on the Statue of Liberty. Send me
On
you're
the
tired,
book.
you're
Yep.
hungry, you're
Yep.
poor, you're
Ezra
huddling.
Lazarus, I believe, made that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like, and
And
that's how my grandparents came over. They weren't the best. They probably should have been kicked out by Trump, but
yeah, and if you want to talk, if you think it's a racial thing, the Irish, a lot of the Irish that came over were fleeing from a famine. Were in poverty and fleeing a famine. A lot of the Italians, a lot of so we're.
yeah,
I think we've made the point, but okay, let's
right.
continue.
And replacement by groups that don't share.
Oh, okay. Real fast though, if anyone's ever heard of the Great Replacement theory, it's sort of become mainstream on the right wing. It is this idea that white people are being replaced by people who aren't white. Very classic fascist way of thinking. All right.
The same race or bloodlines.
And I think any Jewish people that
Oh
vote
God,
for
here
a
we go.
Democrat, I think it shows either a total lack of knowledge or great disloyalty.
Fascists encourage their followers to scapegoat.
Disloyalty. Why is he picking them out?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you go back to some of the late 20th, I'm sorry, late 19th, early 20th century revolutions that were spreading across Europe, a lot of them were led by or uh, created by a lot of these groups were created by people of Jewish faith who
Mm-hmm.
were dissenters against the hardcore authoritarian
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
What can you
yeah.
say?
What can you say? You notice, I think I see here on the screen, he's about to say that fascists encourage their followers to scapegoat. So scapegoating is where you blame a minority group or a small group for like the problems of a country. Just to let everyone know, in Germany at the time the Nazis took over, the percentage of the population that was Jewish was less than 1%. Less than 1%. And according to the Nazis, all the country's problems are due to less than 1% of the population. And we see something similar happening in the United States, especially when it comes to groups like trans people, who are a very, 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 very small portion of the conversation. And yet they seem to take up a lot of the conversation. I'm just like people railing against it. It seems to be a lot of their conversation for such a small portion of the population.
And the word scapegoat, I just want to mention this, is an ancient practice where every few years, or in some cases, some groups every year, you take a goat and you put all of your wrongdoings, sins, whatever you want to say to them, bad karma, onto that goat, and you drive it out into the desert where it'll die and it'll take all your sins, your bad karma, whatever, with it. It'll make us as a society more pure. And thus, this is where this comes in. You use them as scapegoats, and I see the word expel there. I'm going to assume it means you expel them. That's like sending them out into the desert. And that's what it is. And in Germany, um, they didn't go after rounding up the Jewish population right away. They went after gypsies and LGBTQ type people first.
And socialists and
Socialists,
people who disagreed with them politically. Yeah.
right? The very first camp, it wasn't a concentration camp, not an extermination camp yet. What that was built was Dachau, north of Munich. And who was there were political enemies. They were LGBTQ people. They were people like that. It wasn't specifically just for uh, German Jews. German Jewish population was bigger than those others. And so you get by with that. It's coming. And a lot of people that were German Jews could see the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's talked out against them, but they hadn't been rounded up yet.
But they would be. All right.
Expel and sometimes even kill such others. Fourth, extolling brute strength and heroic warriors. The goal of authoritarianism is to gain and maintain state power at any cost. For authoritarians, strength comes in the form of large standing armies that can enforce their rule. They seek power to wield power. Fascists seek state power to achieve their ostensible goal, achieving their vision of society. Fascism accomplishes this by rewarding those who win economically and physically, and denigrating or even exterminating those who lose.
So, go ahead, Dad. You go first.
Okay. You've got to understand German culture. Okay. And I'm not going to go into that. But there comes a time when Hitler is in control. He realizes that to accomplish his goal, he must have the army faithfully backing him. And so there is a time that he orders the gathering of all army units, a lot of them in Munich, in front of a building that is still there. If you could find this picture, and then you'll go, oh, and you ever go to Munich, you'll go, this is where this happened. But
Which is what happened when we went there.
right.
We stumbled across the square where they.
It's like, oh my God, we've seen this picture.
Yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, and he had them all swear an oath of loyalty. And remember when I said Hitler ist Deutschland und Deutschland ist Hitler? They had them swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler and Germany, but more specifically to Hitler. And culturally speaking, that's like signing a contract. And so now there are some who will discuss how powerful that was within the German military. But the reality is that helped in Hitler and the Nazi minds, solidifying Hitler's control over the army, that he now had them in his grasp.
Hmm.
And and that's a very, very famous piece of history.
Yeah.
And Mussolini did something similar. Um, Franco did something similar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Just to add to what Robert Reich was saying there, he said that that this fascists sort of extol those that win and are physically win and things like that. Hitler had this. He when he appointed different like leaders inside of the government, he gave them overlapping spheres of authority. So, for example, he might tell the police, your job is to fight crime, but then also tell the Schutzstaffel, it's also your job to fight crime. But then he wouldn't give them directions about who would do what in that. And which would cause all these different parts of the government to constantly be arguing with each other and fighting with each other because to him,
and outdoing each
and
other.
outdoing each other because to him, allowing them to compete with each other would allow the strongest, fittest amongst them to rise to the top. By the way, folks, not an efficient way to run a government. Fascist governments, they have this image of being rigid and like very, uh, you know, um, top down and very, but they are top down, but very, just is structured, but they're very chaotic because of this idea of fighting is good, letting the best rise to the top is best. Okay. It's not a good way to govern at all. It's very inefficient.
Yeah, and the leader is what I would metaphorically say is the hammer,
Mhm.
and all of the people underneath the hammer that do the dirty work, like my son was saying, are the nails,
Mhm.
different types of nails. And you may go, which nails should I use? Well, those nails go off and do what they can because they want to succeed. And if something goes, a little haywire, or one group doesn't do what they should do, or makes a mistake in terms of ideology, then the hammer comes down. I
Mhm.
mean, he did that to the SA,
Yeah, he did. Night of Long Knives.
the brown shirts.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue.
Fascism depends on organized bullying, a form of social Darwinism.
Our people are tougher and stronger and meaner and smarter.
For the fascist, war and
I'm
violence.
sorry, but why would you? Okay, let's say that were true. Why would you brag about your people being meaner?
Well, he's
That
jealous because he's not any of those.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, he is mean, but
Also,
yeah.
but it makes you feel superior. And
Hmm.
social Darwinism, I want to mention this. This isn't something that Darwin said.
Not at all.
This is something that when Darwin wrote his book on,
The origin of species.
yes, the origin of species, it's a much longer name, but that's what we call it. Um, it's been shortened. He didn't talk about social Darwinism, but his name's applied to it. And that is the strongest of the fit. I mean,
Survival of the fittest.
I thank you. Survival of the fittest. Sorry, I'm old. Survival of the fittest. That the strong will get rid of the weak,
Hmm.
and they will survive and take over the world.
And social Darwinists would say that that is good. That you should let, for example, the poor and those who perhaps are starving, let them die because that'll decrease the population and it'll remove those from the genetic pool that are not capable, which is horrific.
As a matter of fact, in A Christmas Carol, uh, social Darwinism was already starting to be talked about back in the 1800s. As a matter of fact, one of the big guys was a minister, a Christian minister by the name of
Thomas
Malthus,
Malthus.
who believed in this and he preached it. And whereas the man who wrote A Christmas Carol,
Oh, Charles Dickens. No,
yes,
yeah,
uh,
got that right.
was whenever one of the ghosts speaks to Scrooge, and they're talking anti-Malthusian theory, and whenever Scrooge opens up his mouth, he's talking Malthusian theory.
Hmm.
Okay, and in there at one point it says, what was it? Um, what was it you just
Oh,
said?
well, but if they are to die, then let them die and decrease the surplus population, which
Yeah,
is
one of the ghosts.
Malthus.
Yeah, Dickens sees some poor, and he goes, "Don't they have any? Barely can get by eating scraps." And he goes, "Well, what are these people doing out here? The poor, the hungry." He says there are their workhouses aren't there. And he goes, the ghost says, have you ever seen any of these workhouses? Why pay taxes for them? Isn't that enough? And, and then he says something about uh, little tiny Tim, Scrooge does, about will he live or die? And the ghost says, I see an empty seat here and so forth, meaning that he's going to die. And Scrooge feels sorry for that individual because he now has seen who the poor, the hungry are.
Yes.
And he goes, oh, that poor child. And the ghost speaks up and says, well, if he is to die, let him die and decrease the surplus population.
Which is what Scrooge had said previously, because he
That's right.
was a social Darwinist.
That's right. And that was because of Malthus.
Mm-hmm. All right. Some of those ideas, folks, still around today.
Oh, yes.
We just cut in Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, cut tons of Medicaid spending. There's some estimates that about 20,000 people will die because of that. It's the idea that the poor, those that can't afford, should just be allowed to die. All
Yeah,
right.
and an aid to the poor in terms of food for the hungry.
Mm-hmm.
That's being cut.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of aid
SNAP
that the
benefits being
government was
cut.
giving to charitable organizations to get food to the poor. That's been cut.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if they can't get out and work, they're lazy, then let them die. I mean, my God, why
Mm-hmm.
should we
Yeah.
support this?
Evil. Evil.
Evil, pure
Yeah.
and simple.
Violence are means of strengthening society by culling the weak and
There it
glorifying
is.
heroic warriors.
I am your warrior. I am your
Oh,
justice.
Jesus Christ.
I am your
You have
retribution. I am
spurs
your
on
retribution.
thing.
Fifth
You're not a heroic warrior.
Yeah, says the guy. Yeah, because remember, Trump dodged the going to Vietnam by getting a doctor to write him a note claiming he has bone spurs, so
Yeah.
he can't.
And also too,
Yeah, go ahead, Dad.
also too, who was it? Senator,
Which one?
Republican, was captured in World War, not
John
World War, in
McCain.
Vietnam.
John McCain.
John McCain.
hmm
He served in the military during the Vietnam War, which I'm not going to talk about pro or con, but he served. He was a pilot. He risked his life. He was shot down. He was held in the most notorious prison of the time during the Vietnam War called the um,
I don't remember Hanoi
Saigon
Hilton.
Hilton or
The
something like that.
Hanoi Hilton. Yeah.
And the American prisoners there, especially the pilots that were captured, were treated horribly.
Tortured.
Yep. And lo and behold, what does Trump say during one of his campaigns when it came to when they talked about um,
John McCain.
him was that he said, "Well, McCain, I don't like people who are
Yeah,
captured.
I prefer people who aren't captured.
Captured. They're not heroes. It's like, holy crap! And you use freaking bone spurs to get out of it. You have never, ever been in a situation like McCain did.
Yeah.
Never. And you dare call veterans that
Yeah. What?
and say that they're not heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. I want to say man, but I don't want to. I can't say it.
I get it, Ed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm better.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's continue.
And finally, disdain of women and LGBTQ plus people. Authoritarianism imposes hierarchies. It's about order. Fascism's idea of order is organized around a particular hierarchy of male dominance.
Yep.
The fascist heroic warrior is male. Women are relegated to subservient roles.
Because as a matter of fact, folks, yeah. Okay, the Nazis were so invested in this idea that women need to be subservient, and honestly, they basically viewed women as baby-making machines. Literally, like the main role of the woman was to have as many babies for the Reich as possible.
Official policy. You
Official
can find it.
policy. Yeah, it was maybe sometime we'll show. We actually have a medal. The Nazis would hand out medals to women based off the number of children they had, and we actually have one somewhere. Maybe sometime we can show it to you. But this actually is very irrational, especially when you're fighting a war, because the Nazis were very uncomfortable letting women go to work in factories because they had this very strict view of women. And because of that, it was an inefficiency on their economy. And one of the reasons they lost the war, by far not the only one, and maybe not even that important of one, but one of the reasons they lost the war was because they were so chauvinistic and so had such a restricted view of women that they wouldn't let them work in factories. While in America, during World War II, women flocked into the factories and they were massively responsible for the victory, America's victory in
Yes.
the war.
And the Americans realize that, and that's one of the reasons why um, a lot of policies toward women changed
Hmm.
because of that. It's like women, they shouldn't have had to prove themselves, but they did.
Hmm.
In Germany during the war, as they were taking in more and more men to fight, because more and more of their fighters were dying,
Hmm.
they had to turn to another source of workers, and it wasn't the women; it was the slave labor going to the
Yeah.
camps. Now,
Yep.
you are one of these people from one of these concentration, extermination camps. You could be Jewish, you could be Gypsy. They even took some from prisoner of war camps, and you're put into a a factory to make bombs for Germany. Are you going to work real hard at that? Are
Yeah.
you going to, when the overseers aren't looking at you, are you going to do something to make sure? And that's what was happening in some cases.
Right, it's completely unpredictable that would happen, right? I mean, idiots.
And I also want to point out something here in our country. Now, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I just like to call him the idiot. I call a lot of them the idiots. And they don't know their history. They're so stupid. But anyway,
Mhm.
um, Hegseth,
Yeah, Pete Hegseth.
did you
Hmm.
hear what he said
Oh, jeez.
about women and voting? Did you? I mean,
Oh, I
they
forgot
shouldn't be
about that.
voting. I mean,
Uh,
that's ultra nationalist Christian speak for let's make women secondary.
mhm.
They shouldn't have the right to
Mhm.
vote, and they'd love to see that gone. Women shouldn't have a right to do lots of things. I mean, he is the head or the secretary of um, defense,
Yeah.
and
She's
which
completely
I
unqualified to do, by the way.
were they going to do that, or were wait a minute, were they going to do this, or they did do it? They want to rename it, go back to the Secretary of War. I remember Trump
Oh,
saying that.
Jesus. I
I hope they
believe it.
didn't do
I
that.
don't know. Don't quote us on that, but
Jesus. Well,
yeah.
I know that that's what they wanted to. But anyway, so there you go.
Hmm.
It's there.
Yeah, and folks, in our time, I'm sure many of you know this. There's the manosphere online. There's a lot of incel groups. There's a lot of basically, I guess, male groups that are very misogynistic. That goes right into sort of that fascist mentality about male dominance and stuff. Yeah. All right.
In fascism, anything that challenges the traditional heroic male roles of protector,
Mm.
provider, and controller of the family is considered a threat to the social order. Fascism seeks to eliminate homosexuals, non-binary, transgender, and queer people because they are thought to challenge or weaken the heroic male warrior.
I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth.
These 5 elements of fascism
I'm
fit
sorry.
to-
If you don't mind,
Go
I'm going to
ahead.
speak first. Who gives a shit? My point here is it's weird. These people are weird. I mean, like Trump and them are so weird. Why are they so obsessed with like the gender stuff? Like, who cares? Let people do what they want to do, right? They're not hurting you. I don't understand this weird obsession. I mean, I do understand it, as in I can understand they're lunatics, etc. But I mean, like like making those the two official genders. Like, why? Why do we need to do that? There's no. It doesn't. Anyway.
Uh,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say also too that you know I am brown-eyed. I have two brown eyes. I did not choose those brown eyes. I did not say before I was born, make me brown-eyed child. I didn't say that.
Maybe more of a gurgling sound because you'd be in the womb, but I'll accept the rest of that.
Uh, so I didn't have a choice. Now, I can artificially change it now with contacts
Hmm.
to make myself look blue-eyed, but you can't get any more handsome than being brown-eyed. But anyway, the fact of the matter, the fact of the matter is, more and more research, more, and by the way, some of the first people who started to come up with this research and went, oh,
Hmm.
maybe being gay isn't a choice.
Hmm.
The Nazis.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually true.
Really?
Yeah, they actually that's not even a joke. Yeah, you're right. They did studies trying to, you know, prove that there was some issue with being gay or whatever, and then they actually proved the opposite, and then they're like, "Oops, okay, bury that." Um,
Yeah,
and
they originally would send, they chose being gay a choice.
Mhm,
And Dachau was one of the places they would put gay men
mhm.
to re-educate them.
By the way, that still happens in America. Yeah, gay conversion therapy happens some places. It's illegal most places, I believe.
Yeah, and some states have outlawed it.
Yeah, maybe
And
most
and
have.
even the American Psychiatric Association has
Mhm,
condemned it.
mhm.
That supposedly, and also the Psychological Association, the
Yeah.
professionals that know what they're talking about,
Mhm.
have actually said that, if you're going to be a member of these prestigious groups and you endorse that, we're removing you.
Yeah,
You can't be.
because
But
it's
anyway,
so against science.
the point I'm making is, um, I didn't choose these brown eyes, and more research from universities and looking into this have said, you know what? There have been LGBTQ people around since the beginning of time.
Mhm. And
And
by the way, sorry to interrupt, but almost every other species of animal has same-sex relationships. For a while in our backyard, there were like two female ducks that were clearly pair bonded. That would like it's very normal and natural in the natural world. But go ahead, Dad.
yeah, but there are also written records within the
Mhm.
Romans, within the
Yeah.
Greeks, within a lot of civilizations that we have, that it just happens, and
Mhm.
it wasn't always considered bad because it happens.
Mhm.
Just like I happen to have brown eyes.
Mhm.
Now, modern day, they're still trying to narrow down exactly what it is, but it's been determined by credible science with credible scientists at credible research venues that in 99% of the cases, it's not a choice.
Mhm.
I mean, for instance, I can put in blue contacts, but I'm still brown-eyed. So you can act like
Mhm.
you are straight, but you're trying to hide the fact that you're gay, or you prefer to act one way when you're really the other.
Mhm.
And I don't want to say that you're trying to pretend, but sometimes
Mhm.
people do it because they're scared
Mhm.
to come out. And so this is something that is out there,
Mhm.
okay? And the fascists would deny that.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, once again back to Germany, once Nazi doctors were going, guess what? Our conversion therapies really aren't working in these re-education camps, and we think they're born with it.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's when the Nazis then changed policies, and once again, you can look this up. Changed policies and decided, okay, if we can't change them to be like the rest of us, let's just kill them.
Yep. Horrific.
That'll help. And it's like,
Mhm.
so it's
The cruelty is
I
unimaginable.
just don't understand this. People want to deny
Yes.
the science, and science aside, they are people. Why are you coming into my bedroom and telling me what type of sex I should have? I bet you a lot of you MAGA people are very deviant, that 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 Christians, these national Christians, would just go, "Oh my God, stop it,"
Mhm.
to some of these people.
Christian nationalists. I knew what you meant,
I'm
but
sorry,
no,
yeah,
that's okay.
but I'm getting a little
I
stirred
know
up.
you're in the moment. I just wanted to, yeah.
So it's like,
And
forget it.
yeah, I will say, folks, my dad is a Christian. There were some comments in the last video, some people being like, "You two are very anti-Christian." No, he is a Christian. Okay, his point here is that he doesn't feel like Christian nationalists have very Christian values.
Yep.
Obviously, right? Um,
They're not Christian.
yeah. Okay, there you go. All right, so let's continue with this.
Together and reinforce each other. Rejection of democracy in favor of a strongman
Hmm.
depends on galvanizing popular rage. Popular rage draws on a nationalism based on a supposed superior race or ethnicity. That
Yes, yes,
superior
yes, yes,
Let me
race.
just stop it here.
Go ahead.
These are pictures from Nazi Germany, and they actually would do this at school. They had scientists, first of all, that would go around measuring what makes a true German a true German. And one of the things they would do, they would measure the width of the nose and the the cranium and all this stuff, the jawline, color of the skin, and what would make somebody a Jew, what would make somebody a gypsy, and so forth. And that's what they base their research on, which is really, really stupid. And they then would teach this crap to the kids in school. When it came to the Jews, they were considered Untermenschen. Matter of fact, a lot of these people were considered what they were called Untermenschen, below human,
Subhumans. That's what it
subhuman.
means. Yeah.
Uh, and uh, and they actually wrote books on a lot of these different groups, but especially the German Jews. There was one put out that was required to be taught in the German schools.
The
It was
children.
called The Poisonous Mushroom.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
You can find it online. You
Yeah.
need to look it up. You don't need to buy
Content warning,
it.
but
Don't
yes.
buy it.
Yeah, don't buy it.
But look at it, and they tell you what makes a Jew a Jew. You can identify them by the way they look, by the way they act.
Insane.
And it's like that is so stupid. And since I'm on this, hope my son doesn't mind.
No, of course I don't
The
mind.
important thing, which is why I like this picture, is because when the Nazis came to power, and this is where the anti-elite stuff that they called anti-elite teachers were looked at as the anti-elite. Us teachers, many of us who are underpaid, are the elite.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. Um,
Yeah.
But one of the first things they did was that they purged all of the books that were written or published by Jewish publishing houses, banned them. They then ordered, and you ready for? And also the science books. They didn't purge what Jews came up with, German Jews came up with, but they purged the fact that a German Jew did. I mean, let's look at it this way: Einstein was actually Austrian at first and then German or something like that. But anyway, he fled because he saw what was coming. They kept what he taught, but they didn't give him the credit. But the point I'm making is uh, the book that they really changed, you can look this up. They said change the history books.
Yeah, that was the most important thing to them. You're
Yeah.
right, Dad. Like they went in and changed the history books.
Change the narrative.
Yeah.
Anybody that we don't like, will make them look bad.
Mhm.
Even if it's out and out lie, we'll make them look bad.
By the way, if you've been watching the news recently, folks, a lot of Republican state governments are heavily messing with the history curriculum across the country in various states, and there's actually a video on my page about what I talk about it, but it's like, yeah, they're messing with the history. They have to trying to rewrite it to some extent to change the narrative.
And one example would be, and I'll put it this way: the Nazis, in this case, knew what they were doing, and I want to choke on that.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that they could capture the youth
Mm-hmm.
with their lies. They got them for life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, it was that youth that, when they became adults, that marched off blindly to war.
And to die.
Yeah, and to die. They were the youth that manned the concentration and extermination camps.
Mm.
They were the ones that did that. The old generation, the veterans from World War One, studies have shown that a lot of them didn't like the Nazis
Yeah.
because they thought this was bad. But they grabbed that generation. Matter of fact, once World War II was over with, that younger generation that now were the veterans of the war and the survivors of the war, a lot of them had a hard time giving up their beliefs.
Yeah.
Even though they had lost. But yeah, they would teach you that, and they knew that once they would skew the history.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, and I'm not going to go into the details, you can look this up, or maybe Sam will have something in the future.
Yeah.
The reasons why Germany lost World War I. A lot of it had to do with Germany. Okay, I want to point that out. However, Hitler wanted the narrative to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want Germany to look bad. We didn't lose World War I. We were stabbed in the back, is what they were saying in the history books now.
Durch das Legende.
And who stabbed us in the back? the Jews.
Mhm. By the way, they actually did a survey too, yeah, called the Judensollen, I think that's how you pronounce it, where they were trying to prove that that Jewish Germans had been more disloyal during the war when it came to fighting in the war, and they actually found the opposite. Jewish Germans received more medals for valor per capita than non-Jewish Germans did. So, what do you think they did with the results of that study? Buried it. Okay.
And
Yeah, because again, it's not about what's true or real. It's about what their perception of what the world should be and is. Okay.
and the bankers,
Mm-hmm.
there were a fair there were all the banks in Germany were owned by Germans.
Mm-hmm.
Some had to be owned by German Jews. And he blamed these banks that were owned by German Jews for causing Germany
Hilarious.
to go broke and not be able to fund the war. If
Mhm.
they had just, stepped up and been, true German instead of a Jew, we would have won. Well,
Nonsense.
guess what? After the war, practically all German banks had gone under. And I say all German banks, almost all of them did, including the Jewish, the German Jewish banks. They had funneled so much money into the government to win the war
Mm-hmm.
that they couldn't operate. But you
Yep.
never heard that.
Nope.
You only heard, "Oh, look, they're so rich. Look at the bankers." And
Yeah.
it's
Not
like,
it's
"What? They
complete.
are? Where?"
Yeah. Right. Nonsense. Okay. All right.
or ethnicity is justified by a social Darwinist idea of strength and violence, as exemplified by heroic warriors. Strength, violence, and the heroic warrior are centered on male power. These
Let's leave Mr. Let's look up his nose person there.
Mhm.
Um, an example of this,
Of what? I'm sorry.
an example of what they're saying
Oh yeah.
here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hitler's favorite composer
Oh,
was none
Wagner.
other than Wagner. If you don't know who he is, he wrote operas in German, very famous opera writer from the 1800s. And his favorite piece by Wagner was none other than,
Oh, the Ride of the Valkyries. What do you
well,
mean?
that's just a piece, the Ring
Oh, the
trilogy,
ring side. Yeah.
the Ring cycle. Now, believe it or not, you might go, well, gee, isn't that when you talk about the Lord of the Rings, isn't that what you're about? Well, some of that
Some
is
of that is
based on
based
this.
off the ring cycle. Yeah.
And what it is in there, there's a scene in which, and it's a pretty awesome scene. You want to look it up. You got to enter, the title of this piece of music out of the opera, and it's quite stirring. But it never stirred myself to be a Nazi. But he loved it. And in the scene, there was a battle on Earth, and I'm going to talk about Norse legend because he was really into this. There was a battle on Earth, and the brave Norsemen or Germanic, Norse were Germanic people, uh, those that died heroically, and this was all part of the mythology back then that Hitler resurrected. Uh, they were victorious. I mean, even though they died, they were victorious in death because what happens is that there are these goddesses that come down from Valhalla. That's the home of the gods and so forth. And they gather up the dead. They are called the Valkyrie. And when they come down, it's called the Ride of the Valkyrie. And they come down and gather up the dead, basically their mortal remains, what's left of them.
Mhm.
And they take them back up to Valhalla, where the gods have them come alive again. They have a big banquet. They celebrate them. Yeah, you died, but you died heroically. Fighting to the bitter end, and then they start training the next day to be this very, very big army that is going to be built up to defeat the giants and other
Mhm.
people. And so and that's why the music is such a glorious piece of music
Mhm.
because it's supposed to show the glory and the power of the heroes.
Mhm. Oh
And
yeah,
and
I
he
think
loved
that. Yeah, I think that's the point my dad's making there is Hitler kind of had this idea of, we might lose in the end, but at least we'll die heroically. And
that.
because of his obsession with Wagner, and as a matter of fact, when he realized that the war was basically lost, he said, "Oh, we should just destroy the rest of Berlin and and destroy all the Germans because they're too weak, obviously, to survive." Um,
Yep.
so. Yeah.
He actually had some guy draw up plans to wire up for destroying most of the towns and
Yeah.
cities that were not under Allied occupation at
Mhm.
this point, and just destroy it all.
Yeah.
Because a part of the Ride of the Valkyries is that there's going to be destruction, and um, it's going to hurt Valhalla, but out of the ashes will come a
Mhm.
new hero.
Yeah.
Out of the ashes of Germany will come a new hero.
Yeah.
I mean, really, he believed that.
Yeah. Like this is the 20th century too, folks, and he still believes that nonsense. Okay.
Yes, he did.
Continue.
5 elements find exact expression in Donald Trump. His uniquely American version of fascism is rooted largely in white Christian nationalism. It is the direction that most of the
I'm
Republican
surprised his
Party
hand's
is now
not
heading
bursting
in.
in the flames.
I know.
It's not enough to call Trump and those promoting his ideas authoritarians when what they are really advocating is something far worse: fascism.
All right, folks. So
That
yeah, that was a good
was
video.
very, very good.
Yeah, he's quite bright. Okay, so folks, that's the video. Anything else you would like to add there, Dad?
Oh, there's too much. So maybe
I
we'll do
got you.
future things
Yeah,
on
and
this.
I will say, a lot of times if you say that, for example, the Trump administration is fascist or we're in a fascist moment, people will push back and say like, well, you're exaggerating. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. You're using, you have Trump derangement syndrome. I beg you to look up the scholars, academics, and historians who specialize in fascism and what they're saying. And I'm not even joking. Some of the biggest scholars of fascism have left the United States because of how upset they are at what they're seeing and how they see a fascist takeover happening. Okay. So just be aware of that. Like, if you read what the experts say, compare for yourself. All right. Go ahead, Dad.
And I also want to say something. I used to tell this to my kids several times throughout the years. I would always say to them, a lot of people, when they're done with their education, whatever level you go through, they think everything stops there, that any other new knowledge is suspect, and they don't think things change. I mean, those of you who have grandparents, and I'm not saying grandparents are necessarily this way, but when something new comes along, do they get a little frustrated with it because they prefer the old way? Or they say, back in my day. I'm not implying that they're fascist, not at all. But what I'm saying is that knowledge changes, knowledge builds upon itself. Even in history, new items are discovered, new documents are discovered. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know there are more documents from the fascist countries, Italy and Germany, from World War II, prior to World War II to World War II, that have yet to be touched by researchers,
Mm-hmm.
more than that have been read.
Because they documented everything.
Yeah, they love the facts and everything. They love to document stuff.
Yeah.
But so a lot of that stuff hasn't been touched. So there's new stuff to be discovered.
Mhm.
Keep your mind open.
Yes.
Learn. Don't shut it down once you step out with that diploma and go, I know it all. No. A year
Yeah.
from now, you may realize, oh God, I guess I don't know. Don't cling on to the stuff that is old and have been disproven. Some old stuff is true,
Yeah.
but some new stuff disproves some of the old. Keep learning, please.
Yeah, excellent point. Just the last few notes here, folks, people. We have a membership program. If you'd like to help support my dad and I in these videos aren't monetized because we're showing copyrighted videos. You click the join button below the video. You can join starting as low as 99 cents a month. We also have a Discord now. We have a really nice active community on there. That is also on my on the Casual Revolt page. And I now have a Patreon set up. If you'd like also to support us there, that would be great. And my dad doesn't know this, but in my recent videos, my live streams, which by the way you can check out. Okay, if you click the bell icon, it will notify you. It'll notify you when I go live. Yeah, I always end it on this note, okay? So this is what I'm going to say, and those who have watched the live streams know this. The first thing I'm going to say is this: keep resisting. The number one thing you can do to resist, and the easiest thing you can do, is to think for yourselves. That includes when you watch us. You don't know us. We could be spreading nonsense, okay? So always think critically and think for yourselves. The next thing here, okay? The best way to fight fascism is to is because fascism tends to appear when people in a society no longer feel that their government is legitimate, that they don't trust democracy anymore, and they're suffering economically. The way to fight fascism is to reform that government and to make sure people feel provided for, so they don't get drawn into fascist ideologies. Okay, so do those things. Do not forget. Lastly, do not forget the sacrifices made by Americans in the past to gain the positive things we do have. I showed on my live stream a sword that was from the Civil War. People have died to gain some of the freedoms we have. Yes, we need some things. We need some things improved, but we also have to protect those things we already have, and many people died for them. All right. Any last words, Dad?
Yes. Oh, look, a horse. Oh, just joking. It was a squirrel. Uh, my son's
What?
oh,
That's
he's really
okay. It's
lost it.
dad humor.
What it is that I'm saying, once again, if it's fascist, call it fascist.
Yes.
Don't call it something else.
Don't beat
Call
around
it,
the
in
bush.
fact, call it out when you see it,
Hmm.
because that's what they want to see. They want to intimidate you enough that you're too afraid to call it out.
Yeah.
Call it out.
Okay, folks. And on that note, we'll see you in the next video. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.